A very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another session of brought to you by VLAN Asia. Before we start, I would like to apologize for the technical glitch that we had earlier on sending out all the invites. Apologize for sending out multiple times by our team. It was an error on our part. So, well then, as usual, I would like to remind everyone, if you haven't yet followed us on our social media, you can do so by going down to Facebook or LinkedIn and looking up VLAN Asia and clicking on the like button so that you can get the latest updates as well as the upcoming webinar schedule. And if you have any inquiries on products or services, you can always WhatsApp us. The WhatsApp number is always open, +6 012 266 0189. The number is actually displayed on the screen. And if you want to look at the products that we are carrying, you can always go down to our website at vlan.asia. The other thing that I would like to remind everyone is that if you have any questions throughout this webinar, you can always drop them in the Q&A section, which is on the right-hand side of the screen. If the section is not open, you can click on the little icon with the question mark at the top right-hand corner, and you can open up that section and just drop in questions that you have throughout the webinar, and our presenter, as well as our team, will actually take them and respond to you. If you're wondering whether we're going to be sending you the slides as well as the recording for today, yes, we are. So stay tuned. So today's topic, we have Darren Liu from Zuraya. He'll be presenting to us the data analytics for SME, making sense of your data and adopting a data-driven decision culture. We hear a lot of this big data, these words that we've been using. A lot of people have been using. I'm sure you've heard it at least once in your conversation. Well, what exactly is big data? What do you do with the data that you collect? Right now when you go to shops, shopping malls, eateries, there's a lot of all these QR codes out there. Government is collecting all this data, they're compiling it. What are they going to do with it? So, well, we have Darren, who is from Zuraya, to actually present this topic to you and also try to make basically give you some understanding on how you can make sense of this data. Darren, you can unmute your mic, and then, I'll just hand it over to you this whole session. Welcome, Darren.
Thanks, Norman. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here and to be able to share what I know, what I think I know, with all of you today. And I will be starting to share the slides. Right, Norman?
Yep. Just share your screen and I'll put it up.
Right. Done?
Yep.
All right. So, topic for today, we're looking at data and analytics for SMEs. Very specifically for SMEs, because based on my experience of, 13 years in analytics so far, most of my customers are big companies, conglomerates, I would say, MNCs, and they have tons of cash to spend, and they are usually the leaders in terms of technology adoption. So I realized that there are a lot of SMEs out there who are wondering, it would be something that we want to get into, but we are unsure. We don't know how to start. We don't know what to do, and even what it actually is about. So I hope in this next maybe 45 minutes or so, I get to enlighten you a little bit and give you a fresh perspective and a little bit better understanding of what this whole data and analytics is about and how it can help you. So, the big data hype, like what Norman said earlier. I'm sure every one of you have heard this big data story. Just look at the numbers. I really love the infographic. It's simple, easy to understand. In 2019, right? Every minute of the day, in YouTube itself, there are 4.5 million people watching videos, or rather 4.5 million videos being watched in a minute. 188 million emails are being sent, right? And all of these numbers is like way beyond what we can kind of imagine in terms of data being collected. Every number that you see there creates a record in some database stored in some cloud place somewhere. Although they say cloud, it's actually still a server sitting in some other country. So don't get fooled by the whole cloud thing as well. The actual definition that Wikipedia actually gave, big data is extract information, and or otherwise deal with data sets that are too large or complex to be dealt with by traditional data processing application software. We are all very familiar with Excel. Now try to imagine it in your head. Just YouTube itself, 4.5 million per minute. I just run 1 hour, like times 60 of that, right? It's 240 million, give or take. How do you process that in Excel? It will be 240 million rows. First thing, Excel will die. Your laptop or desktop will probably crash, and you would have to reboot everything and probably not get anything done. So that's big data in a sense. But what I'm here to share with you is that do not be, all these numbers, all these things that we are familiar with on a day-to-day basis, it is actually still like so far away from us from a business perspective. We don't have like 188 million emails being sent. We have information from our point of sale systems, our CRM systems, our ERP maybe, obviously ERP if you have. If you don't, maybe it's time to get on some. But what I'm trying to do here is don't worry about the hype. Whatever anyone says about big data, if you feel like the need to get on the hype, get to know your data first. Don't have to worry so much about the big data part of it. Drop the big, just focus on the data. Now, digitalization. VLAN has run quite a fair bit of webinars regarding digitalization and what you should do, how you should adopt it, even from a culture. All this whole new norm in our pandemic world right now today. Things are starting to open up, but there are still a lot of things that are rather different. I guess a lot of SMEs have come to realize that digitalization is a must. There is no point delaying anymore. Might as well just get on it now. And times may be hard. I can understand that with the whole recession coming or already here, spending might be tough, but I would say think of digitalization as getting you ready to go even faster. Once all of this normalizes out, then you would be so ready to kind of fly. And with digitalization, what it actually means, you're either buying software or subscribing to software, then you will start using software. And day to day, example of an ERP, you subscribe, you use, you create entries, it becomes part of your daily life for your operations team, your finance team, your procurement team, maybe even a HR software, any kind of software. Yeah, I would say millions of software out there, But once you choose, you start using. You use, you generate transactions. All these things that you create, you write, you submit, you save, they are all stored somewhere. Although you may not be familiar with it, it is all stored in databases. I won't go too much details on databases and all that nonsense, but it is stored in a table-looking format. Think of it like an Excel, but in a database. Also on another server somewhere. And because of all of that, you actually have your data. You already start collecting, and that's the best part. Once you have data being collected, right? I mean, you hear things, this optimizing the value of data, this is the big data approach. set a big data strategy, identify your big data sources, where are they coming from, whether it's from social media, whether it's from your own internal system, access and manage and store big data, analyze your big data, then you make data-driven decisions. All this big data, big data, big data. For your SME, just remove the word big. Your strategy, your concepts will remain exactly the same. You set a data strategy, you identify your data sources, you access the data, you analyze them, then you make data-driven decisions. Don't be worried about the whole big data thing. Big data is data. Whether it's 1 million rows, 1 billion rows, 1 trillion rows, or 1,000 rows. You'll be surprised what the 1,000 rows can get you. And hopefully, through today's session, it will kind of enlighten you guys a little bit more. All right. So, this whole 5-step strategy, it's taken from a big data strategy approach, and setting your data strategy. I'll just go through it one by one very quickly. Setting a strategy is just aligning it with your company's goals and KPIs. If you break it down into smaller sets, it's essentially your KPIs. You want it to move your top line or lower your bottom line. In other words, get more revenue and probably help you cut costs. And that's where profit comes in. And identifying your data sources is just saying, where are you generating data? Your ERP systems, your emails, potentially, but usually we don't take email information because that's of no point. Your CRM, if you have customer interactions, your warehouse management systems, potentially, right? And whatever. If you are a manufacturing plant, every machine that you have in your manufacturing plant is a potential for data acquisition. So, although the step to get there is a rather long, complicated one, but let me tell you, it is not impossible, and you should start, because there are way too many things that you can do to help you improve operations and even save on maintenance costs and a lot of other things. Now, access, manage, and store your data. That's one of the things that I will come to in probably a couple of slides more, that everyone is like, wow, yeah, I know access, manage, how do I do that? But the whole gist of it is to gain access to the databases that is storing the information. Pull it out, get hold of it, take ownership of it. If it's on the cloud, bring it to where you are, or you can host it in the cloud as well and just keep it for yourself. But the idea is you start collecting and you keep it for your company. Not the software provider keeping your data. It's not that it is just in the server somewhere in somebody's table under somebody's desk. Then you go and analyze your data as a 4th step, right? And that's where a lot of things comes out, and a lot of patience is so needed for that. Only then you can really make data-driven decisions. And what I mean by that is that every decision that you take for your company would be backed by some form of statistics or study or analysis based on the data that you have, rather than going from a gut feel or from my experience 3 years ago. It shifts the idea and the way you would communicate from a top-down position, or it would also shift from a bottom-up. How do you convince your top management that what they should do is correct, because you use data as a baseline? Now, data and analytics, what it means to SMEs. It actually means that you would get your foundation really strong. You build, the day you start collecting and creating your own data mart, your own database, your own data warehouse, whatever you want to call it, you have started. And from that day on, let's say it's today, 5 years down the road from today, you have 5 years worth of data. And that changes the whole game as a company, as an individual, or as just everyone as part of the whole ecosystem around the company. You create a data-driven culture. And I strongly believe in this myself. When I say culture, it really means that everyone in the company, from the bosses all the way down to your fresh graduate hire, think about using the data that you have to move your company in the direction that you want to go. Not just by some guesswork, not just by experience. It's all about using your data, and it will take time, it will take effort. Sometimes it might seem like, is it really worth it? But I would, from the many years in the industry, I would say it is definitely worth it. There are a lot of things that you can do and gain from it. Which leads me to the next point, gaining insights into your company. You really will know from every point of where the transactions are being made in your company, where the data is being generated. You know as frequently as, if you really want to push it, as real time. Real time meaning if you are a manufacturing plant, you know the minute or rather the second a component comes out of your production line. You know the count one is live. You can check it from anywhere. You as a boss can be sitting in your office upstairs, or you may be somewhere, maybe playing golf somewhere, and then you have a dashboard on your phone, and you look at it and say, yeah, okay, they're meeting the numbers, good, cool. I'm cool with that. And it just keeps running, you know. The idea is that you know at any point in time where your company is headed. And that's how you track and monitor your KPIs, using your data. Real pinpoint accuracy. You want to really drill down to the actual one transaction which has some funny transaction ID behind the scenes, you can actually still do that if you really want to, but you know, being as a upper management person or the boss or whatever, you might not want to go into the details, but you might ask somebody to do that instead, right? And with that, with knowing all of this, with having knowledge at the tip of your fingers, right, you become agile, you become flexible, you know where you can change, you know where you can shift, you know where your margins are better, you know where it is tight, you know, and you have the ability to pivot or change or offer something totally different. You know, in the past 3-4 months of our lockdown, I'm pretty sure many of you would have gone through the thought process of like, oh my God, if I really want to do something really different, can I do it? How am I going to do it? How will it impact my bottom line? How much money do we have to spend? How much? So when all this comes so fast in your head, but if you're still, you don't have data at your disposal, you will be like, hey, somebody, can you get me this information? Hey, we need to know this, like, how about this, you know, and by the time you actually realize something, maybe a week if you're really fast, or even worse, I can't go into office, so I don't know anything. That's tough, right? And I'm sure a lot of you would have gone through that thought process and hoped for that. Wow, I think maybe we need a change, right? And where best to begin than now? Well, common challenges and questions that I get. The biggest one you see, how to start. My data is everywhere. I have 10 systems or 10 different vendors. How do I get them all in place? You know, how do I even access the data? Can I access the data? You know, aren't my Excel reports enough or my PowerPoint reports enough that I generate once a month? Although it takes me 1.5 weeks to generate the data, but yeah, enough. Where to begin? I have a very old system, you know. I don't know if you can still get the data. I don't know if you can get it out even. I only know how to print the report. You know, if I use it, there's a function that says print report. If I want more reports, I'll go back to the vendor and say, can you build me this report? And usually your reports are in tabular format instead of table. Either it comes out in Excel or it's in a pre-configured format that you told the vendor to do it. But that's so yesterday. It's time to move on to something else, and the something else is get the access to your own data. You can access your data as long as you use the system, you pay money for it, or they install it on your factory or your office. You should own it. If there's anywhere in the contract that with your vendors or suppliers that say that you cannot access the data, then you might want to change vendors. That shouldn't be the case. You should always own your data. Now, based on all those kind of questions, so here's what I'm trying to help you guys figure out. And I came up with this basic 5 guidelines to begin this journey. So at least it sets your mind thinking in the right direction, and you just take it step by step, and eventually it will become an obvious path where you would traverse. First, get access to your data. Consolidate your data as a second place. So that means you have 10 systems, or 5 or 20, does not matter. But you get access to all of it, you bring it all in one place. Just bring it all in one place first, right? Now you nominate a champion to understand your company's data. So this will kind of either create a new division or you hire somebody, right? Or you outsource it as a service and have that partner company work with you guys to at least get you all to a certain level. That's an option, right? But you need someone to really understand your company's data. Understanding it from your screen of the user, where they key in your information, where they type in the invoice number, they type in all the stuff, create the POs and all, is different. It's different when it appears in your database as rows, looking like an Excel sheet, you imagine that? And it's different when you try to combine and make sense of everything together as a company, not just by, oh, finance stuff, finance, CRM stuff, CRM. Why don't you try to mash it all together, right? So you need a champion to really understand your data. Now from then, once you get the basic understanding at least, then you build dashboards that give you insights. I'm pretty sure now you have dashboards as well that is driven by your KPIs, sorry. And you may think that it's sufficient, but there are a lot of other types of dashboards that you can create once you have all your data in place. You will be very surprised. And what you want are insights that can help you understand things faster, move faster, and decide faster. That's the basis of a really good dashboard to begin with. Let's not talk about all the fancy analytics of predicting something, predictive analytics, forecasting and all those. Slowly, we are just in the beginning. You will get there eventually. Once you have collected enough information, enough data over the years, you will get there. It doesn't mean that only the big guys who generates 1 million, 2 million rows of data a day can do that. No, it does not mean that, right? And the fifth step is you just collect more. Just keep collecting. Either you use more software, or you start finding different sources. Could be an external source, could be internal input sources, could be anything. But just keep collecting and expanding. And within, I would say maybe 3 to 5 years, actually maybe not, maybe just 1 year. Even 1 year later, if you begin this journey today, 1 year from today, if I were to come back and ask you, hey, do you think you can live without your data now? I almost can guarantee that you will say cannot. You will be so reliant on it. All right. So a little bit of details into each of them. The first point, gain access, right? Look at this. If you look at this diagram, you'll have your ERPs, your warehouse management system, which is the WMS, your CRM, which is your customer relationship management system, or some of you maybe just have a finance system, don't have ERP or anything. Usually your ERP will contain a finance component, but even if you don't, you just have a finance one, right? It's split into two in most cases, actually in all cases. Either it's on-premise, that means you have purchased this software from a vendor, they have installed it on a server in your office. That server, if your office is big enough and you have actual server room and all, then wow, kudos to you, you're actually quite solid. But in most cases I've seen the server sits either on a desk or below somebody's desk. And everything is installed there. Or if you are subscribing to a software company, let's say like Xero, yeah, all the data sits with them in their server. You are using it, software as a service, and their data sits with them. Okay, but it doesn't mean you cannot have access to it. You can have access to it. What you need is a connection to the database. That's about it. A bit technical, but I'm just here to tell you that you can have it. You can. It's okay for you to ask your vendor for it. You ask for the login credentials, your username and the password. You don't have to have write access. You only need to have read access. Meaning all you need to do is read the data, and that's fine. And hopefully they have the data dictionary behind it. The data dictionary just means that, okay, when I look behind the scenes, I have 10 tables. Think of it as 10 Excel sheets, but they all have column name, but I don't know what the column name means. The data dictionary tells you the column name. Hopefully they can provide that to you, else there will be a little bit more effort in trying to figure this out. Not impossible, but just takes a bit of time. All right. So once you have access to your data, doesn't matter where, you have access. The idea now is to consolidate it. And when we say consolidate, what I mean by that is that you choose a place. It could be another server sitting below somebody else's desk again, but I don't recommend that. That's why you see the icon that I actually use is a cloud hosted server. So that you don't have to worry about buying server, what's the price of the server, what if the server go down, if the server break, how am I going to do my work anymore, and all those kind of nonsense. I'm sure you all have your nightmare of that. Oh my god, if my server actually spoil, right, we cannot do a lot of things with it. So you don't want to go down that route. And with how useful and cheap the cloud technology is today for smaller players like the SMEs. For the big guys, the cloud kind of pros and cons, they have to outweigh each other, right? But what I'm saying is that create, let's say we choose a cloud hosting database. You host your database in the cloud, and we build jobs or programs, I would say, to extract the data that you already gained access to in your first step and store them all in one place. Okay, so while you're doing that, first thing is automated. Second thing, you standardize everything as much as possible. Standardization just means that in ERP, I find the address. In CRM, I also find address. Whose address do we take, and what is the standard format that we decide on, so that everything is consistent. Cleanse is like, sometimes your data can really look like crap, because where you input the data on the screen, it could be open text. That means I type Selangor, I type everything full, but maybe my spelling really bad, or I type too fast. I missed one R. But another person comes, he just put SGR, all capital. Another person comes, Selangor, spelled correctly, but all small. So, it's also part of standardization, but we also deem that as a cleansing activity sometimes, because some information you just want to either throw away or make it all the same. Now, govern meaning is control. There always has to be a custodian of your data. You govern everything in that one place so that you have a single source of truth. Once you have that, and once you have this automated, that means every day, every night, whatever data happened the day before is updated into this database, right? Your single source of truth. Now, all your users, which is the deer, the koala bear, the mouse, and the chicken. So all you users are like the animals there. So you can only access, or when you want to build reports, or you want to see the data, you find it from one place, the single source of truth. No longer you ERP user see ERP, CRM user see CRM, WMS user look at WMS. No longer that. We take that away. We don't want all that silos happening, because once you have silos, you have contention, and you have contention, you have a lot of other issues. Let's not get into that. So this is the idea: consolidate so that you get a single point, a single source of truth. Now, nominating your champion. See the pretty lady icon there at the bottom. So she has become the champion of your single source of truth, and it is in a way like a plant, a tree. It will grow over time, but you need to nurture it, and you need someone who really has a green thumb. They need to understand all this technical funny terms, the database structure, how is it structured, where are your data sources coming from, what is the name of the file, the field, the table, what are their relationships, what are the data formats, what are the aggregations that you want. Aggregation meaning you some divide, some 10 fields divide by 3 fields, those kind of things. What are the consumer groups? Who are my users? What's the actual business meaning behind it? In the database, I see a field called ABC, but actually it means that is the total sum of our revenue. But in the database, I don't know why somebody who created this system at the back decided to name it ABC. Those are the translations that you would have to go through when you actually explore your data. And then you need to understand historical info as well, because you will need to know that at certain point in time you didn't have this system, and at a certain other point in time you didn't have that system. So you would need to understand how far back your data goes, what are the gaps within your data, how do you study that, how do you make sense of all of that, so that your boss can understand what you're talking about. You probably won't have to go into all those details, but you need to have somebody who knows how to do this. Now, creating the insights. Your insights have to be KPI driven. You have to look out for the frequency of things, how often it generates. That means how often your data is updated. If I have a dashboard that looks like that, or quite fancy dashboards, but my data only update once a month, don't bother lah. You look at it for 1 month and the graph doesn't change. Doesn't make sense. It has to at least have a daily frequency, right? And it has to be something that enables you to enables decision making. You look at it, hey, I think we have to do this. So the sample dashboard that I've put there is a dashboard from the software that I always pretty much work with, SaaS. This is from a warranty analysis. So let's say I'm a car manufacturer, I'm a warranty analysis. So you put little icons on the left, like your total warranty cost, your total parts cost, your labor cost, and then you have a breakdown. You see the top, right at the topmost, you see cost overview, detailed cost analysis. So these are different tabs within the actual report. So all web-based, you launch on the web, you imagine that almost every visualization tool today are web-based. So you would have different tabs. You log in one time, you can change many screens. You can see a lot of different things. Yeah, I won't go into too much details about all these visualization tools, but these are where you start with dashboards. How you dig later on about with your data and all that one later. I would always recommend, if you don't have dashboards on a visualization tool that's incremental, that's updated at least on a daily basis, start here. Another example I have is also from a claims, I think, yeah. So they have, this is also from a warranty perspective, but just different kind of graphs. I just want to show you that you have a pie chart here that it's not your typical pie chart anymore. These days, the visualization tools, they come up with pie charts that are really different. It's not your standard PowerPoint pie charts anymore. That one too old school. Like you see the graph on the right side, you see all the little points. If it was a live demo, you scroll over every point, it will actually tell you the actual value of the data on that point. And you see that little greenish, bluish after the line, there is kind of a spread. That's a prediction. It's trying to do a forecast. And a lot of the tools these days inherent already kind of have a forecast based on the historical data. Whether accurate or not, don't really trust it too much in terms of accuracy, because any prediction is also not very accurate. But at least it kind of gives you a feel of where it will be going, right? But These are just examples of insights that you can have. Now, expand on to the final point. If you see the flow now, other than ERP, WMS, CRM, finance, we have HRMS, web, mobile, third party, can be anything. But the idea here is this: get more data points, get more inputs, automate them, put them all into a single source of truth, try to group them all together, try to form relationships with them, and just get more data. You increase your inputs, you expand them, increase your records that you have, meaning you do more transactions or use the system more, and you have more data over time. That's just a natural, but expand it, and it will grow. And that's why I always recommend the latest technologies of using it on cloud. When it grows, you don't have to worry that, oh my god, my server cannot handle this anymore, I need to buy a new server. Means then I have to migrate everything to the new server. Then what's going to happen in the time that I'm migrating? Then you know what's going to happen to my reports? Can I get my reports or cannot get my reports? So all those kind of things, you just take it away. You expand. The cloud technology allows you to do that. All right. Whew. I feel I talked a lot, but hang on for a little while. A few more slides and we will be done. Now, a few options in the market, because people ask, hey, where do I start? What do I do? How do I do that? I'm just putting out here a few products that I'm familiar with. There are a lot, like really a lot. You take a stone and throw, you probably hit 10, maybe more. But these are the ones that I'm familiar with. SaaS has been around since 40 years right now. Yeah, American company. Azure is from Microsoft. They are pretty much a cloud hosting company, but they offer technologies for data management and database hosting as well. Talent is an open source data management. When we say data management, meaning the tools that you use to access and consolidate, and then you put all together, right? Databricks is kind of like a competitor to SaaS. I'm familiar with them, but I don't really use them. And the last icon here, which has no name there, but if you're Office 365 user, you should know it's Power BI. And Power BI is a visualization tool, which is actually very powerful. And it comes, as long as you're an Office 365 subscriber, I think you get Power BI for free. But yeah, maybe Norman can confirm that for me later. Right, so these are just some available options in the market. Yeah, there are plenty more. Don't get drowned out by it. Pretty much see what you need and see how they can fit what you need. Don't get conned by all their sales talk. Their sales talk sometimes can be really powerful. So start small and then grow it. Now, a little bit of examples, right, of data analytics in action. These are stories that we read about, we learn about, but I still always feel that it is really, really interesting. Now Walmart, everyone kind of knows Walmart. Not here though, they don't open here, so mostly in the Americas region, right? But you'll be surprised. Recently, there have been the stories about Walmart and Amazon, like how Walmart has flipped and pivoted in their strategy and how they actually can compete with Amazon. Everyone thought that when Amazon came out with their marketplace and all that stuff, all these brick and mortar companies will tapao lah, close shop, go away. But surprisingly, Walmart came around really strong. One of the few, I would say. And they all attributed it to what they call their data cafe. They actually built one big, massive, kind of like a campus office thing, and they call it a data cafe. And they generate 2.5 petabytes of data per hour. Petabytes is like, kilobyte, megabyte, so kilo mega gigs, then you go tera is after that is peta. So a lot of zero lah, like really a lot, and this is just per hour. And these are all coming in from everywhere, everything that they can find. So they realize that they really need to commit to one big place. So this is another example of their actual big data for them. And they pull in internal data and also a lot of external data. They take reports from the government reports, the studies, any free public access data, they bring it and try to merge it together. Right? And what it helped them with is that a lot of things that they try to do, they try to make the understand things or why things are not working, how come this sales is bad. It shortens the time from weeks to a few minutes, like 30 minutes. They kind of know the trend, they know the patterns. Yeah, so that's like how they counted Amazon in terms of using the data. Target story is quite cool. When I first heard it, I was like, no way, really? But when I saw how they did it, then I was like, oh, actually, yeah, it's really possible. So what they did was this. This was many years back. I think maybe about 10 years back. Yeah, maybe about 10 years back. They predicted that they kind of knew that this shopper was pregnant before her family did. She knew, of course, but using data, they already knew. Because of all the patterns of the stuff that she's buying, it correlates to all the other patterns of other pregnant women have bought before. So what they did was, based on their analytics, they studied the data, they came up with an algorithm of identifying these people. And then when they identified, the first time they did it was quite bad because they straight away like, oh, good, great, let's send them a big brochure of all the pregnant stuff to the house, to this person. And then apparently, like, the father found out that, why are you sending all these pregnant things to my daughter? She's only a teenager, this kind of stuff, right? Quite bad lah. After all the hoo-ha and all, then they apologized, but then actually the father actually apologized back because the doctor really came out and said, yeah, actually I'm pregnant. But it was quite scary that Target knows, and it was quite accurate to it. So they tweaked their format and tweaked their approach a little bit by sliding in. So now they give you a big book of coupons. In America, they love coupons, right? So they give you a big book of coupons, and then inside that they slide a few, all the pregnant stuff there, they just hide it, kind of camouflage in there, so it's not so obvious. And in the 2 to 3 year span that they did that, it was proven that it actually increased their revenue just by focusing on this pregnant mothers or their phase in their pregnancy. They went so far as to be able to estimate and forecast the delivery date to a matter of 1 week. Whether real or not, really, I don't know, but cool story, right? And Lazada, we all know Lazada here. Well, I personally, I moved to Shopee, but yeah, Lazada's still there. Same, just different owner only. One Alibaba, one Tencent. So Lazada actually runs a recommendation engine. That's why you always see like, oh, do you like this? So all the things popping up, right, based on what you've bought, what you've done, and all of that uses analytics. And also because they are one big data guy and they have really a lot of data running through their systems, and they will be quite accurate, in a way that is quite freaky. That you don't realize that you might actually be interested in a product like that. But then they show it to you, and you're like, hey, actually, this is not bad. And it's all based on behaviors of other people before you. So there's a thing called product association, where you buy A, you buy B, based on our history of like 5 million or 100 million records. Anyone who buy A, who buy B, 90% chance they will buy C. So you buy A, buy B, they show you C, see whether you buy or not, because they have a 90% chance that you will actually buy. Right? It is all using data. They track everything that you want. What you put in wish list, what you have browsed, what you have clicked, what you have liked, what you add to cart but didn't, and then you remove later on, what you add to cart but didn't pay. They all know everything. So scary, but that's how the world will be, and that's how actually the world is today. So all the best that it's all the more important that you start today rather than wait and try to find a better time for it. Yeah. So my final slide here, 3 key takeaways. Start now, build the culture in your people. Understand it, get people to help you, but build a data-driven decision culture. And learn to trust your data, because the data is the data. It will not lie to you. It will tell you things that you might not want to hear, but doesn't mean it's false. Okay, with that, that's me. Thank you. Hit me up on LinkedIn or email me if you have anything you're thinking about, you want to talk further, discuss the kind of services that we do or what we offer, or even just to brainstorm on how you can proceed to start and begin for your company. Give me a call. Drop me an email. Free of charge, we can talk. No need to pay money to talk. Right? So, yeah, I'm done.
Thanks, Darren.
All right.
Yeah, it's interesting to find out that you know how we look at data nowadays is like we sometimes don't even know how to make sense of things, right? But when I was listening to you explain about how we really need to understand the data that we have, right? Then it just got me thinking. When you look at all those espionage movies and stuff, and then you only see the action part of it where they go in there to get the information from the enemy's line, right? But you don't actually understand why they want to take that information, right? So I guess what I get from what you're explaining is, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the data is so important that if you can actually make sense of it, right, it will help you so much to, better your business, target the right customers, price your products correctly, those
Yes.
things. Back then, I mean, way back, maybe like 20 years ago, right? People pay survey companies to actually do surveys for them. I remember those were the times where, surveys were so expensive to be done. But now we have the data right in our hands, right? But we don't actually know how to use it, right?
Yeah.
So it's so important to understand what this data is for, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, but the systems there's so many systems out there, right? So sometimes we just want to wonder which system to use. That's the important thing, right? And we also need a person to actually make sense of all this data. It's not easy to.
For sure. Yeah. You definitely need a champion, but like what I was saying earlier, you start off slow. You start off in increments. You can actually get consultants or outsource a team or partner up with someone who knows that, and then they help you start and they help you build your company's team and the people around it, and they kind of help you grow the culture as well.
Yeah. If they want to find out more about this, like if they want to understand more about data and stuff, is there a way to reach you out? I mean, on social media or
I think I posted my LinkedIn. So when you share the slides, I think there's LinkedIn and also my email. Just drop me an email anytime, no problem. Doesn't matter who you are, or you just connect with me on LinkedIn. I think that's cool.
Great. Yeah. So thank you so much, Darren, for sharing on the big data and how to make sense of it. For those of you who are still around, hopefully you guys can actually help us scan this QR code and give us a feedback on what sort of webinars you would like to have in the future, attend in the future. And if you have any other inquiries, you can always drop us an email at sales@vlan.asia, or just give us a message on WhatsApp +601226600189. Thanks, Darren. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you.
We'll catch up soon. Thanks, everyone. Have a week ahead. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.